Hello everyone, this is Dela Cruz and I welcome you to another one of my videos. In today's video, we are going to talk about the last bits and pieces that you need to remember when preparing your resume. These are mostly visual details that could make or break your job application and would make the interviewer and hiring managers decide whether to give us an initial interview or simply toss our resume over the paper shredder. All these and more in this video, and this video is hosted by Tina. First on our list is your name. Your name should be written on the topmost part of the document. Use bigger fonts than what you would normally use with the other detail. And also, present your name or write your name from left to right, not downwards or from top to bottom. I know that there are some of you who have already seen samples on the internet of some of the visual presentation of resumes. I do not have anything against that, as I find them really very creative. But at the same time, most of the layout and formats that are really accepted in all industries are not far from the traditional presentation of resumes. I am going to show you visual examples and visual instructions later on in this video, but at this point in time, let me go straight to number 2. Speaking of fonts in your resume, present all the details in fonts of not less than size 11. This is clearly for readability. Remember that we need to provide those people who will be reviewing our resume with much convenience as possible. In one of our videos that talked about resume writing that could be accessed using this card, we talked about including a profile summary or an overall qualification. Some of you may choose a career objective statement rather than a qualification summary. However, most hiring managers nowadays would prefer a headline rather than a career objective statement or a profile summary. At this point in time, I would personally recommend that after your headline, then your qualification summary could follow. Now, back to the headline. What is a headline? A headline is a 2 to 3 word statement about your overall qualification. You could probably look at this as the summary of all summaries in your resume. It's very important that when you create your headline, make those 2 to 3 words very catchy. Remember that your interviewers or whoever will review your resume will just go through your resume using the Z pattern. That's the Z pattern for you there. So that's the pattern that they use in their cursory review of any document, particularly the resumes that are submitted to their office. We cannot expect that they will be reading very carefully all those resumes that they receive, especially in seasons when they have to really hire a lot of people. While I talk about readability of all your important details, it is also best to remember having white spaces in between sections. What are white spaces? Simply, white spaces are those spaces or sections in your resume without anything. These white spaces actually give your readers a breather. If this would mean adding an extra page because of your white space provisions in the previous pages, then that's completely fine. A lot of the hiring managers and reviewers of resumes would rather have a considerable amount of white spaces than a lot of printed details that are cramming in a certain page or cramming in a certain section. So, having said that, remember to always provide white spaces in between sections, most importantly. Next on my list is correct grammar and word order. Remember how you would present the details in your employment history. There is not really one complete sentence in there, right? It is very rare that you would find a complete sentence in a resume entry. We do not really need to be worried about complete sentences, as most of our entries would come in bulleted details. But having said that, let's also not forget the importance of word order. Let's take your employment history for example. When you get to the details, how do you form the verb as the first word in your employment detail? Remember that when talking about past roles, responsibilities, and any details at all of your past jobs, then that verb should be presented in the past tense. However, if you are applying to another company for a greater opportunity but you are still connected to your present employer, then that means you can present your roles, responsibilities, duties, and other details with verbs in the present tense. Let's now quickly take a look at the visual samples of what we talked about. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is my last video on job readiness that I'm publishing on a weekend. Next weekend, you may expect that very important skill that we all need to possess in order to sustain our employability and our employment if we are currently employed. And again, any update on the job readiness content will be published and presented to you on a Thursday. For now, thank you very much for having me on your screens. This is Dela Cruz of Hosted by Tina. Ta-da!